Welcome back and welcome to In Focus. Today we're talking about human trafficking. You know, human trafficking is a horrific crime. It involves the use of force or coercion to obtain some type of labor or commercial sex act to profit the perpetrator.
Human trafficking is often described as modern-day slavery. According to the United Nations International Labor Organization, there are 12.3 million enslaved adults and children around the world at any given time. Over 1 million are victims of commercial sexual servitude. More than half of all forced labor victims are women and girls. And you know, Brian, it says here that 800,000 people are trafficked across international borders each year. 800,000.
You know, it's scary, and of that, those are 80% women and 50% men.
Right.
You know, when you look at this, they've said that prostitution is the oldest profession, but prostitution only came about because people, against their will, had to do something in order to survive. And what we're finding now is it has moved from not only prostitution to now just slavery itself. And we're talking even more grotesque than we could possibly imagine in our day and age today. Laurelyn, this is such a big issue that we're dealing with.
It certainly is. And you know, and what about here in Canada, you know, where we live?
Well, here in Canada, women usually between the ages of 14 and 22 years represent the majority of victims in Canada. And about half of all trafficked persons are Aboriginal. And it's not a surprise.
It's not a surprise. And I've had to deal with this personally. I've seen the, you know, the terrible effects of it myself, and had to be involved with some women that were actually, you know, being trafficked. And it's something that we have to stand up against and know what is going on and know how we can take action.
You're absolutely right. You know, Canada was among the first countries to ratify the United Nations Protocol to prevent and suppress and punish trafficking of offenders, especially of women and children. Penalties for trafficking can be severe and up to 14 years in prison and even life in prison if other factors like sexual assault and forcible confinement are present in the case.
And you were saying, Brian, that, you know, Canada is a hub for, you know, a lot of people to come into our country. And so then it does become our problem, even though it's an international problem, then it enters our borders.
Well, the issue is this: wherever there are gateways, and we're talking about whether it's railway, airway, and also the boating. So, you know, those are the areas that you're going to see the highest trafficked area. And as a matter of fact, in Mississauga, it represents one of the leading gateways in the world as far as trafficking. And we're talking about people coming from the Eastern Bloc countries, as well as the Philippines, and also the Orient. And there have been a number of cases, especially in 2017, and legislation is beginning to move forward. Legislation, the criminal code, it actually has a maximum penalty of life imprisonment and a mandatory minimum penalty of 5 years where the offense is involved in kidnapping or aggressive assaults in Canada.
Right, and yet there still has been some criticisms that there haven't been, you know, enough arrests in this. But I don't know if any of you heard about that incredible story in February 2017 where a flight attendant was actually, you know, sitting, you know, attending the flight, and there was a young woman sitting there, and it didn't look like she belonged with the well-dressed man that she was sitting beside. And in fact, a note was passed letting the attendant know that she needed help, and the police were waiting on the other side of the plane. I mean, that's how fast and that's how aware we need to be of our surrounding.
You're absolutely right. And the heroic action of that flight attendant actually pulled her and brought her into a place of safety. And that can happen every day. Now, you said, what can we do? How can we get involved? And what are the things that we could do to make a difference? You're asking great questions. The social impact of human trafficking, the victims being trafficked, they have no freedom at all. And it's a horror to be involved in this, and the deprivation and the torture that they go through. It's a trauma. But what we can do is, number one, we can pray about this. We can pray and we can ask God that He would give us discernment how we can move along in this process, because a lot of this takes place through the grooming and through malls and these dangerous spots where young people are hanging out.
You're right.
And there are other things we could do as well.
Yes, absolutely. Like train your children, teach your children, because these young girls, they just go to the mall, and men that are grooming for trafficking, they just see them and, you know, offer to buy them things, you know, treat them kind of well and kind of chit chat with them. And before you know it, they're involved in something that they had no idea was actually someone setting them up to be trafficked, kidnapped, taken to a different city. Horror stories.
Yeah, and we at In Focus, what we'd like to get you to understand and also get involved in is raise awareness, take action, and also get involved where you can and make a difference. And that's your In Focus.